Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7, and today we're just going to go over Peira, sort of a guide for her and everything you need to know. So let's just jump right into it here. So let's just take a look at Peira's skill 1 first. It is a Woven Claw, and it is a 40% chance to stun once you have Molagora into it, and up to 65% if she has a barrier. You can also burn this for 10 souls, making it 100% effect chance, but do remember, this does not ignore effect resistance. It just makes it 100% chance to land, so you can still hit that 15%. Her skill 2 is Punishing Blade, and this is what you're going to be opening up with basically every single game with Peira here, and this decreases buff durations by 1 turn. It also restricts, and it also makes them unable to be buffed for 2 turns. This also grants an extra turn to the caster, so it basically does all of the things you're used to Cerise doing, but on top of that, or instead of the speed debuff that Cerise has, you're now going to be unable to be buffing, which is often better in, I find most cases right now in the current meta. And of course, it does give her an extra turn to proc you into Pack Hunt. But one thing to note before you go into that extra turn, Punishing Blade is an attack skill. So this is going to get you counterattacked by Violet, by Rems, by all sorts of shenanigans like that, which we'll talk about a little bit later when we go over her stats. And now we have our skill 3 here, which basically does everything again. This is a non-attack skill, so this is going to trigger stuff like Politis, but it's not going to trigger stuff like counterattacks. This will increase the attack of all allies except for her for 2 turns, and that's also going to grant her Stealth, Escort, and Barrier. 3 very powerful things when combined together, and these are all for 3 turns, which is also kind of obnoxious. The other cool part about all of this is it kind of acts like a Aureus of sorts. If we take a look at Escort, the target takes 30% of the damage suffered by all allies. So basically, she's a thief that's able to hold an Aureus technically. And she also stealths, which decreases damage from AoE attacks. So all of these things combined makes it kind of nuts together, you know? Like, it's a weird combination of skills we haven't really seen before, especially all in one skill. The other thing to note is her barrier does not scale with anything, and this is a good thing. We were kind of worried when she was first released, but it turns out her barrier is well over 10,000 HP. I found when I was down to like 5 to 10% HP on my Peira, who has 16,000 HP, it was a full barrier for her. So the amount of damage that mitigates and the amount that protects her is absolutely bonkers. As for her stats, there's a couple ways to build her. The most primary one is basically just to make her as fast as physically possible, with effectiveness as well turned in. And before we get into this part, I do want to mention your speed generally scales relative to the people you're playing against. And if you're in a top-end guild, 300 speed might be nothing. But if you're in a medium guild, 300 speed might be the highest person in your entire guild. And the people you're facing are going to reflect that. So don't be scared when you see all the 300 plus Peiras. It's generally relatable to the people you are fighting. So keep that in mind going forward. We have 3 super important stats and 1 necessary stat here. Speed, obviously the most important. You need to get that up as high as you can. Effectiveness is also the secondary stat you should probably be getting. I would like mine to be higher effectiveness. 132 isn't really landing against a lot of ER targets, so I would like to get that up to maybe like the 170 range at the minimum. And then we have defensive stats. And defensive stats are really important on Peira because she is going to be redirecting a lot of that damage. And also her first attack, her skill 2 that you're opening the battle up with, is going to cause counterattacks. So you're kind of needing to be able to survive that. So the general idea with her when you are using your skill 2 to skill 3, we'll show it on the screen here, is after you use your attack skill, you're counterattacked, and then you protect yourself, which is a non-attack skill, so you buff yourself up again. So even if you take a dual counter, you still have a full HP bar worth to protect yourself. The other thing too is you can go crit rate if you want. Another way to build her, you can toss in a crit rate necklace instead of a health one or a defense one, and this will allow you to pair her up with somebody like Challenger Dominial to boost up C-Dom from all the crit rates from her skill 2 as well. So just keep that in mind. As for her artifact choice, I really do prefer Goblet of Oath. I haven't really tried the others too much, but with my build personally, I really desperately need the effectiveness, and also the non-attack skill decreasing skill cooldowns by 1 turn really just adds up and it's consistent, which I find is really important for somebody like this, especially since you've got a couple turns of downtime after you use your skill 2 and skill 3 combo. You will be stunning on your off turn, but let's be real here, you really just want to do your skill 2 into skill 3 again. As for Peira's skill up, she's kind of Mulagora hungry, but not so at the same time. Her skill 1, you definitely want to go to at least +4, and this is going to make her stun 40% chance, which is very important. You don't want to go without any effect chances for characters you use a lot, in my opinion. Second up for Punishing Blade, her skill 2, you're going to want to go to +3. You don't need to go for the other two. She doesn't do much damage, but the damage does add up if you do have extra Mulagora, and she's somebody you want to use for a long time. But in general, you need to get to that -1 turn cooldown. As for her pack hunt here, this is one you kind of need to max. Her barrier strength is absolutely insane, and it's something you just have to max. It's so much barrier potential that you can't go without it. It's just the core behind her entire build is getting that 10,000 plus HP barrier by herself. It's just kind of nuts how she can do that. As for the Costa Upgrader, you're going to need 17 Mulagora, 29 Flame of Souls, and 2 Demon Blood gems to do the bare minimum, I think, in terms of her skill ups. And the maxer, you're going to need 33 Mulagora, 36 Flame of Souls, and 6 Demon Bloodstones. As for Peira's right side gear, your boots are obviously going to be speed, and you want effectiveness, HP %, defense % as substats. Your ring should be effectiveness with speed substats as high as you can, but of course you can always go defensive here instead and get effectiveness substats elsewhere and try to go a little more bulky if you want, but I do prefer the effectiveness ring. And then your amulet is a little bit flexible. The choices are mainly HP %, defense %, even flat defense because she does have very low base defense, and alternatively crit chance if you want to build her up with Challenger Dominial, but I do prefer the defensive options. And then of course for the substats, you really just want as much speed, HP, defense, effectiveness as physically possible. Peira's imprint concentration is effectiveness, one of the best she could have, 9% base for the B rank for a single duplicate, all the way up to 27% for the triple S. And this adds massive amounts of ease into her guild, because getting a free 27%, well, free in quotes, 27% effectiveness just adds so much to your flexibility in your gear. But of course, I wouldn't be using slates on her. I would save those for others, but as is, effectiveness is one of the best things she could get, if not the best. Let's talk a little bit about Peira's team compositions and best friends. First of which is probably Summertime Iseria, the Cleaver and the Speeder's best friend. With Peira, she does decrease buff duration turns, so she's going to get rid of immunity to lead the way into Summertime Iseria, and Summertime Iseria will be boosting up the CR of your team and planting bombs because their immunity is gone. And also with all the attack scaling Summer Iseria does, she's going to get the attack buff. Obviously, it's just a match made in heaven with these two, and you really can't get much better than this. She's also best friends with people who can counter or at least handle Violet, because Peira is an ice unit going into Violet. She does have that attack skill, so she is going to be counterattack, but the thing is she's also going to be protected because she's not going to die from the initial counterattack, and then she's going stealth and barrier, so she will not get followed up by Violet like that. So you can pair her up with somebody who handles Violets pretty handily, like Milim here, with extra hit chance and just an easy way to combine together. The other cool thing is she does attack buff Milim here, so you do not need to burn her skill 1 first to get that increased attack buff to kind of guarantee that you get the kill on the Violet. Another person like Milim who kind of handles the Violet in the same situation is going to be Zahhak. You can give Zahhak attack buff and just blow them out of the water with his skill 3 right at the start of the round. Another very important person to pair with your Peira if you have the chance, especially in something like Guild War, is top model Ludica. And the reason being is she just complements him very well. You can kill people that are problematic like Arbiter Vildred maybe. You can take out other people that have extinction. The one kind of downside is that top model Lulica already pre-buffs herself with attack, so you kind of lose a little bit of that effectiveness there, but it's not really too important. But the really cool thing between these two is in a 3-person guild versus guild battle, you're going to have Peira there with escort and stealth, And then you're going to have top model Luluka as well with stealth, and then all the damage is going to be funneled into a single person in the front who's going to get the effect of Aureus, and it's going to protect both of your backline units. You just do damage, cycle turns, and funnel all of the hits into that one person. We've talked a lot about other cleavers and offensive teams, but do remember that Peira is fantastic everywhere. She's really good for control/bruiser teams as well, specifically because she does provide an Aureus without being a knight, and she also does all the things you need somebody to do, like speed contest, buff durations, unable to be buffed, while also stunning and having prolonged battles so you can take control of it over time. So people like Apocalypse Ravi are going to work very well with her to make sure your A Ravi doesn't get one shot or anything like that. And because your A Ravi's taking less damage, she can heal up much more easily. And then you can also pair Peira up with somebody like Conqueror Lilius herself or Fallen Cecilia, which also helps protect your team. And although the barrier is not going to do too much here, still the Fallen Cecilia will protect the rest of your team as well. And just a bunch of different combinations of mitigation together and stuns and provokes and everything is just going to work super well. So there you go. There's Peira in a nutshell. In the comments down there below, let me know if I missed anything, if I was wrong, if you think something else is better, if you have any other combinations of teams that you like that I didn't mention. I'm really curious to hear. Also, let me know what you think about a format like this, reviewing different characters and talking about them, and how I can make something like this more informative and better for both new and old players alike. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave a comment and hit that like button on your way out, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.